When it rains, it pours. And when I say the Democrat Party has got to be having one of the worst, if not the worst year in the history of this party's creation, man, somebody will have to point me to one that rivals this one. Because on top of the fact that their approval rating has dropped to just 19%, and as you know, the lamestream media, they always underestimate President Trump, and then they over talk about what the Democrats are doing. Remember when Joe Biden was at 32% approval rating for like the entire last year of his campaign, of his term, even though the country was tanking and people were raging and they even booted the man out. They wanted us to believe that 3 out of 10, almost 4 people out of 10 thought Joe Biden was doing a good job, which we know is BS. Even the Democrats' approval rating, I believe, is probably closer to 10%, if not lower. I swear I have not met one person that says, I'm a proud Democrat, unless they're one of these blue-haired, nose-bone, pierce-wearing extremists, and there's a very small circle of them. They're just so extreme, it makes you think it's a bunch of them. Do you know, I just found out that for AOC and Bernie Sanders' tour, that Stop the Oligarchy tour, did you know that they were bussing around, like, I believe the number was 9,000 people. They were taking a caravan of 9,000 people with them, so it always looked like it was a huge crowd.
Bakersfield, California, Bernie Sanders and AOC right here. We got the bus dropping people off here, US VIP bus. So they're getting buses dropping these folks off.
But I swear, I have not seen one person post or do anything about, woo, I was at the Stop the Oligarchy tour and it was great. You know why? Because it was the same people attending the event that don't have a job or that are retired and were being paid and fed and put in a hotel. They say millions was spent on this Stop the Rich People tour while they flew around on private jets, bust around 9,000 paid people, but they were stopping the rich, right? Now we get to my girl, Kamala Harris. And as you see right here on the screen, Kamala Harris has now faced the music about what's going to happen in that campaign. And she has decided to bow out. And I don't even know if we can say gracefully, but if you want to know why or what led to Kamala Harris dropping out of the race, check out this interview that Tucker Carlson did where this man explains just some of the things that Kamala Harris did that could be the reason why Californians feel the way they feel about her. Check this clip out.
Kamala Harris wrote the law.
Kamala Harris did? Harris is the one who wrote the Legalized Stealing Act.
Yes, it's called Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act. And the idea behind it was we would, address the mass incarceration problem. Prior to this law, thefts at $400 would be felony grand larceny. And this law changed it such that it would have to be above $950 to become a felony. Drug possession would no longer be a felony. It would be treated as a misdemeanor.
So this is the law that legalized stealing and drug use.
Correct.
Effectively.
Yes. Kamala Harris.
So as you see, Kamala Harris was single-handedly responsible for the increase in crime and drug use in California. She literally wrote the law that took $400 theft being a felony all the way up to $900. I believe it's even higher now, like at $1,500. She's the one that, after locking up thousands of people for marijuana, she's the one that legalized a certain amount, you know what I'm saying, to decrease the amount of people going into jails. Why? Because the California prisons were so overpacked. But remember, these were the news reports that were coming out not too long ago. The lamestream media, they try to create what's called push polls, where they put these things out and they position people which can influence the public to follow a certain decision-making process or to follow a certain trend. Like, it's called the herd effect. So they put these things out. Now, remember, not too long ago, this is what they felt about Kamala Harris and her chances or her odds to be the governor of California. Check this out.
Former Vice President Kamala Harris with a big lead in the race for California governor. Inside California politics, Emerson poll included 18 hypothetical candidates for the June 2026 primary. The poll shows Harris with a huge lead, with 31% of voters choosing her as the next governor. She has not declared her candidacy for the governor's chair. Former Democratic Congresswoman Katie Porter was a distant second with 8%, and Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco, a Republican, had 4% support.
So not too long ago, Kamala Harris was the front runner. She was the one. And literally, we talking about maybe 3-4 months ago that this report came out. But now Kamala Harris started making public appearances. She started speaking out. And people now have realized this is the same person who was the quote unquote border czar. She's the same person who was gaggling, cackling, and helped Joe Biden almost run this country into the ground. So now here's what the reports are saying about Kamala Harris. Check this out.
Well, it's great to be with you, Martha. And I think this is great news for California, because we can now be certain that someone who is so completely useless in pretty much every job she's had, including running for president, will be nowhere near anything that can make a difference to the lives of Californians. And so that is great news for all of us here. I also think it makes it more likely that we will get the change that we need in California next year in the elections. As Tommy was saying, people are absolutely sick of what's been happening after 15 years now of one-party rule. And so I'm very encouraged by the prospects of winning that election next year and bringing the change that we need. But the point personally on Kamala Harris that I would make is that this doesn't surprise me, because
if you're enjoying this video, do me a solid, hit that thumbs up, because I will never ask you for a cash app or for a super chat, but you hitting that like button, it really helps get this information out there to other people. And if you aren't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. And whether you already subscribed or subscribing now, make sure that your notifications are turned on and select all, because YouTube hasn't been sending out the notifications. A lot of people have been telling me. So select all. That way you'll be notified when I upload the next video.
She has shown zero interest in any of the issues and the problems that have been caused by 15 years of one-party rule. What does she have to say about the fact that we have the highest gas prices in the country? Nothing. What does she have to say about the fact that we have right now the highest unemployment rate in America, the highest poverty, the worst business climate, the highest housing cost, the highest cost for everything? All of these things are problems created by her party and her policies. She's shown no interest in them, no plan to do anything about them. I have, and I do, and I've got a plan for $3 gas, for bringing down costs. That's why I think that it's looking good for real change and a California revolution next year.
So as you see, Californians like him and that's Steve Hilton are extremely excited that this woman will be nowhere near the White House. So let's get into what the Washington Examiner had to say about her fallout. So Kamala Harris announces she will not run for California governor in 2026. Matter of fact, let's see what this video says.
Former Vice President Kamala Harris announced she would not run for California governor in 2026, ending months of speculation that she might. In a statement posted to her X account, Harris wrote, "In recent months, I've given serious thought to asking the people of California for the privilege to serve as their governor. I love this state, its people, and its promise. It is my home. But after deep reflection, I've decided that I will not run for governor." Harris's decision follows a long period of speculation about her next steps following November's bruising defeat against President Donald Trump. Speculation will now inevitably fall on whether she will seek another bid at the White House in 2028. It will also likely open the floodgates for candidates seeking to replace Governor Gavin Newsom, who is term limited.
So there you have it. Let's read this article. Former Vice President Kamala Harris announced Wednesday she would not run for California governor in 2026, ending months of speculation that she might. In a statement posted on X, Harris, who was defeated, blown out, blasted by President Donald Trump in the 2024 presidential election, wrote, "In recent months, I've given serious thought to asking the people of California for the privilege to serve as their governor. I love this state, its people, and its promise. It is my home. But after deep reflection, I've decided I will not run for governor in this election." She added, "For now, my leadership and public service will not be elected in office." No crap. "I look forward to getting back out and listening to the American people, helping elect Democrats across the nation who will fight fearlessly and sharing more details in the months ahead about my own plans." My statement on the California governor's race. This is what she actually had wrote. And this is, we know it's a whole bunch of babble jabble, and I'm not sure. I don't think you want me to actually go through and read that. Harris's decision follows a long period of uncertainty about her next steps following November's defeat. Blown out. Those close to the former vice president said she had been quietly staging a political return. Some claim she wanted to enter the 2026 gubernatorial race, while others said she was laying the groundwork for a third White House run. Harris's lack of definitive answers until now have put the California contest on hold as candidates and deep-pocketed donors waited for her to make a move. Vice President Harris's decision to not enter the California's governor race should not be a surprise. Jeff Lee, former deputy cabinet secretary to Democratic California Governor Jerry Brown, told the Washington Examiner. She largely spent months away from the spotlight in a will she won't. She largely spent months away from the spotlight in a will she won't she holding pattern that froze gubernatorial aspirants for months. The vice president had not aggressively done the comprehensive donor and stakeholder canvassing necessary to galvanize support for a state of almost 40 million constituents, a sign of political uncertainty. While the vice president's name ID and national exposure had put her at the top of California polls, it was also clear that many of the candidates were not going to defer to her, including former Representative Katie Porter and former LA Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa, who declared staying in the race regardless of the VP's decision. Veteran Democratic strategist Sean Clegg, a longtime advisor to Harris, told the Los Angeles Times that Harris had weighed a gubernatorial run, but decided her next chapter would be focused on other political pursuits. I think she listened to her gut. Obviously, she saw a huge opportunity, so she had to consider it. But at the end of the day, she just didn't feel called, said Clegg, who has worked on Harris's campaigns since 2008. Until January of this year, she's been in public office continuously for 22 years and has spent her entire career since she graduated law school in public service. I think she's interested in exploring how she can have an impact from the outside for a while. Harris has purportedly written a memoir and is considering starting a nonprofit group focused on young voters. Harris became the Democrat Party's presidential nominee after former President Joe Biden was booted out following a disastrous debate performance against Trump and a pressure campaign from senior Democrats to step aside. Although Harris's campaign debuted to a wave of enthusiasm, she was handily destroyed by Trump in November after blowing through $1.5 billion in 15 weeks, which is a lie. It's $2.5 billion because they're not counting the other $1 billion in super PAC money she had. See how dishonest they can be? The campaign dished out large sums of money on advertising, social media influencers, staff, celebrity concerts, drone shows, and a town hall featuring Oprah Winfrey. For all the time, money, and effort, Harris had very little to show for it. She became the first Democratic presidential candidate to lose the national popular vote in 2 decades, falling to Trump in every battleground state. She spent the first 7 months of 2025 settling back into her Brentwood, California home with husband Doug M. Hall, the woman beater. Losses are hard in politics. Mike Nellis, a Democratic strategist who served as senior advisor to Harris and Senator Adam Schiff, told the Washington Examiner. People put their lives on hold to serve and run, and she deserves the opportunity to rest, clear her head, and decide what she thinks is best for herself, for the people of California, for the people of this country, and for her family, for that matter. Had Harris decided to run for governor of California, it wouldn't have been an easy win as some believe. She was known as a progressive hero, but when she ran for president, she started to shy away from some of her more extreme positions, quietly erasing her record and turning herself into a centrist Democrat because she thought it would make her more electable. You see, this article is even revealing she was lying. We all knew it. She was being a chameleon because if she would have got in, man, we would have 50 million illegals here right now. She publicly changed her mind on fracking, border security, the Green New Deal, and taxes on tips in real time, biting all of President Trump's great talking points, even though he was the existential threat. The former vice president would have also opened herself up to questions about her 107-day sprint to the White House, what she knew about Biden's declining health, and whether someone who had run unsuccessfully for president twice really wanted to be California's governor. There was another person who did that, and her name was Richard Nixon. He ran for president twice, lost, went to run for governor, lost, but then ultimately got the top spot in 1968. She also would have inherited, he ran once against Kennedy and lost, ran for governor and lost, and then came back in 68 and won. She also would have inherited a difficult budget situation brought on by fiscal mismanagement and a multi-billion-dollar gaps due to a flurry of spending by Governor Gavin Newsom. Wednesday's announcement did not rule out a third run for the White House. If she decided to get into the 2028 race, she would undoubtedly face a competitive Democratic field that could include California's current governor. So as you see, y'all, this article just revealed this woman was an extreme radical leftist that tried to play the role of a centrist, and she couldn't. That's why she seems so unnatural. When she be talking that left-wing extreme garbage, she be passionate and that's her natural element. But when she's trying to say, no, I don't want fracking, you can just see her twitching. When she's like, no, I would not allow transgenders and inmates to get sex changes. It drives her nuts because it's against her whole belief system. This the same woman that came out and said, there is no Merry Christmas. Screw that.
And when we all sing happy tunes and sing Merry Christmas and wish each other Merry Christmas, these children are not going to have a Merry Christmas. How dare we speak Merry Christmas? How dare we?
As if she gives a darn about kids hungry while California has the highest homeless population in the nation. But she out here talking about kids struggling where she was the attorney general for the state. She was the senator for the state. Gavin Newsom acts like, oh, he's so concerned with homeless people. He destroyed San Francisco as the mayor. Then, you know, when you're in the Democrat Party, and if you pay attention and go back and retrace every powerful Democrat that's in the Senate, that's ran for president, or that's governor, they all started off by destroying a city. On the Democrat side, the more you destroy, the higher you elevate. Like Brandon Johnson in Chicago, he's got a single-digit approval rating. I assure you, some high up, Soros or whoever is considering how could they get that black man into office? Because if he can destroy a city like that, or they're going to try to make him governor, they say, oh, great job, Brandon, great job. What? You're starving the people out. You spent up their money and they haven't rioted on you. Oh, my goodness. Your police or crime is crazy. We love it. The Mad Max style, woo, we got to make this guy governor because he definitely can destroy the state of Illinois. Pritzker ain't doing enough. Look at the Democrat side. That's the only way a Kamala Harris makes it to be VP. That's the only way a Joe Biden makes it to be the freaking president. Bill Clinton, they were running dope down in Mena, Arkansas for how many years? Remember Barry Seal, who was the pilot, who was the one running this crap from Nicaragua and all these places doing airdrops in Mena, Arkansas with Bill Clinton's brother in the state that Bill Clinton was the governor in. You know what it did? Boosted him up to the presidency. Why? Because they know he's down to do the dirty, the real dirty. He knows how to cover it up. He knows how to keep his people from rioting and trying to do a coup on him. Matter of fact, they loved him even more. The Democrats' ability is to mind bang and use the word F, mind F their constituents in a manner that they can take everything from them. They can make their lifestyles far more harsh. They can bankrupt the city and the state, and the people still love them and reelect them. And the power say that's a skill. And it really is a skill, no matter how negative it is. Can you imagine somebody coming to your house, stealing all your stuff, taking all your food, charging you twice as much for where you lived, and then you saying, you know what, I love you. Matter of fact, you can come over here and hang out with us every day. No, you wouldn't, because you got sense. But think about Democrat voters in these cities. I was talking to a lobbyist earlier today from the state of Maryland, and this man told me flat out, he doesn't agree with 90% of the crap that the Democrats push, but he's a lobbyist in a deep blue state. He works for an insurance company in that state. He said he'd be a fool to post what his real thoughts and beliefs are. The insurance company pays him too much money to be a lobbyist, but he doesn't agree with it, but he just has a job to do. Wow. I was blown back. He told me flat out he doesn't agree with that stuff, but he has to be anti-Trump or else he would get destroyed in this state. And I think a lot of them are like that, grandstanding. Why? Just because that's where their bread is butter. You know what I'm saying? Whoever controls the gold rolls. So if you're still in there with me and you watch this, thank you so much. I just wanted to bring this to you. Kamala Harris is out, and let's see what her next thing is. And her memoir probably do worse than Jake Tapper's did. But hey, if you're still in here watching this, appreciate you. Thank you so much. If you haven't already, hit that like button. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. And most importantly, I want you to stay safe and you be great. I'm Brian Maxwell saying I look forward to seeing you at the top. Over and out, y'all.